My name's Mike Halliday. I've been working in technical education, pre-university level, for 10 years now. It's my fourth career. I was introduced to the data center industry back in 2018 and started to understand what all these warehouses next to our motorways were all doing. In 2020, we were provided with a catalyst to help the technical education industry to engage with digital infrastructure at large, both the data center operators and their supply chains, who, whilst many other of our business partners in STEM industries were closing doors, had a huge surge in demand. So this really served as the catalyst for what we're going to be talking about today. So I'm delighted to be given this chance to talk about the Digital Futures Programme. This is a collaborative effort that has been put together by a number of founding partners. So I'm going to throw some names at you. CNET Training, Yonder, Arc Data Centers, CyrusOne, AWS, Virtus, CBRE, and LMG were the founding partners. Closely followed by Digital Realty, KO Data, Vertiv, Soben, JLL. So some of these will be local to the UK, some of these will be APAC, some global. Hopefully you'll recognise some names. We started to understand when engaging with the data centre industry was that there's some clear drivers that were forcing a change in how organisations addressed skills. One huge import being social value or community benefits, becoming criteria for securing resources and building capacity where other DCOs are operating. An ageing workforce, which across every engineering sector is of a huge concern, but fundamentally access to skills. In an industry that's growing, how do we make sure that we have the skills that we need to deliver on what customers are demanding for sometimes 6 to 8 years ahead? For some of those organisations, we're also looking at a much more progressive focus. So what are the benefits that can be derived from industry and education working together? So a loyal workforce is something that everyone dreams of, I think. You know, if you can employ someone that's going to work with you for 10 or 20 years and will also deliver because they want to, you've got an excellent team. The reality is that it's very dog eat dog out there. But this is what people are seeking to try and achieve when we talk to them about how industry can work with education to create that loyalty from a young workforce. Rewarding CPD for staff. Actually, if you ask a lot of young people that in industry, if they had the chance to pay it forward and work with young people, most people would say yes. Most people think they don't have the time. Most people don't know where to start, how to do it, or what exactly to do. But actually, continuous personal development is a fantastic way of, making sure that your workforce is continuously evolving, developing new skills themselves. And lastly, what we're finding is that our employer partners that we work with want to be an employer of choice. Where do people want to come and work? Where do people want to stay? What opportunities are we providing that fall outside of that core roles and responsibilities that give you a sense of reward? What I'd like to do, perhaps, is just to educate our audience on what it looks like from inside an educational building, particularly pre-university, when we are engaging with industry. And really what I'm going to attempt to do is to explain to you what outreach and awareness looks like from an educator's perspective. This is how many industry sectors approach engagement with colleges, schools, universities. The word outreach is used because that's what we're doing. We're reaching out and we're hoping to make you aware that this career exists, that this is a great opportunity for you. So these are the terms that are applied. So let's just walk through what that process looks like. So the ultimate goal is that you are able to engage with students and pupils that are in classrooms that hopefully will be studying subjects that will make them more eligible and more suitable for the roles that you guys need to fill in early careers. These classrooms have gatekeepers. They often, in the UK, carry the title of careers lead. They may also be a teacher. They may also have other responsibilities, but this is the gatekeeper you've got to get to. These people work within a school, and before you get to the careers lead, you have to go through the school, often via a receptionist or an administrator who is going to forward that request for engagement to the relevant person. And these requests are coming from somebody within an organization, and that person has been directed to do it by their employer. Okay, so your homework for today, audience, is to take this diagram and fill in all the arrows that I haven't done. Okay, and what I'd really like you to do is to imagine quite how much noise is happening in order to access a single classroom of students, let alone 20 classrooms at a single technical college or school or educational institution. Okay? There is an awful lot of noise that is happening. And the goal being that these students receive a careers talk so that they are aware that there is an apprenticeship or a career pathway available in this company. Okay. So we often see a lot of employers that are on the same, following the same bandwagon, all attempting a very similar approach. And there are a lot of emails that are going around, okay? A lot of emails that are not being effectively dealt with. The educational institutions do not have the capacity to work in this very transactional way. What I'd like to do is to zoom out a little bit and just think, you know, what we're trying to do is to make young people aware that jobs exist. Okay. And for me, this is really the very first breadcrumb on a long trail through a student's journey to their first job. Okay. This whole process is just to make young people aware that jobs exist. So zooming out, imagine, if you may, that you've already filled in all of these arrows. Thank you very much. You're good students. Okay. I'm sure that most people here are, you know, representing one sort of fairly specific industry. What I'd like you to do is to consider that the classrooms that we might be targeting are just engineering students, for example, and that these students are also being targeted by many other industry sectors. So for those students on the previous slide that did some basic maths and perhaps estimated how many emails might be flying around attempting to secure a careers talk or a stand at a careers fair, For the more advanced students, you might like to take this home and do some advanced machine learning algorithms to identify how many emails are sent, then determine how many are read, and then determine how many are actioned. So there's a bit more of homework for some of the more mathematically minded. So I think in summary, the traditional approach to raising awareness, okay, is taking a huge amount of effort, a huge amount of goodwill, but I think we're focusing on the wrong goal. Within all of this activity, we have no time for developing the skills that industry needs. So now I'm going to run through a very, very simple explanation of how our organisation, Activate Learning Education Trust, has designed the Digital Futures programme to serve as a value-add channel. Okay, so whereas in the previous traditional scenario, every single employer would be out for themselves, attempting to contact multiple schools and engage with multiple classrooms, the Digital Futures approach is somewhat different. We perceive all of our employers to be partners, and these partners collaborate together. Now, some of you competitors out there might find it hard to perceive what it looks like when you're all sitting around the same table and collectively talking about how you're going to work together to solve a skills gap. But actually what I've identified is that it's quite an incestuous industry, and a lot of people know each other. And actually these sessions where we have employers together collaborating and agreeing to share the load of skills development, this is an incredibly rewarding environment in itself. We've already built a great movement, and it's far easier to get collective buy-in when you see that your competitor stroke colleague in industry is also doing it. So now we have the employer partners around the table. They work with our dedicated team. Okay, so we are rather more than a careers lead. We have a whole team that performs various functions. Okay, so we are designing programs, we are devising activities, we are directing our partners' resources, and we're training our partners as well. For those of you in the audience with teenagers, you might appreciate that standing in front of a classroom of teenagers is somewhat different from training seasoned professionals on a technical subject. You might require some different skills, some different engagement techniques, and this is the value that we can provide from within education. So we're helping our employer partners to upskill and to be prepared and to be fully confident in walking into a classroom with lots of teenagers who aren't paid to be there, whose hearts you have to win by building their technical competence and their skills and their confidence. So our team directs our employer partners' activities, your resources. We are very focused, we are very targeted on destinations and outcomes, and we serve as an outsourced team on behalf of all of our partners. And this enables us to achieve scale as a model that we have been able to roll out from our first pilot university technical college in England, and we're in the process of rolling it out to another 3 technical colleges. And what this means is that we'll have hundreds of engineers graduating at the age of 18 every year who love the data center industry. Can you believe it? Already, after our first 2 years, what we've seen is a massive, massive increase, both in students wanting to secure apprenticeships and in the data center industry being their first choice as a career path. Right? So the impact that this is having has been absolutely immense. So the way in which we do this is that we lay out very, very clearly to our partners what the benefits to them are. And we specify very, very clearly the activities that we expect them to deliver, to perform for our students. Okay? And these are built into a single program that runs across our technical colleges, where the employers are able to allocate resources in a single meeting rather than 20 emails per activity. This is very, very important. But actually, you know, it's really important to understand that the benefits that we're offering to a partner serves as it's a service. Okay, so our partners commit both funding to deliver the program and committed resources, so those people that are going to deliver the program in the college. We direct, manage and coordinate those resources. We manage the quality, and we define, refine and improve the scope of the program year on year. So every year that program improves. I'm just going to do a quick comparison of how we used to work and how a lot of education providers are working, and perhaps what industry might expect by working, you know, in the traditional way. Activities used to be limited to careers talks, and attempting to run a project in a curriculum would take months and months to coordinate. But now we have a singular cohesive program that everyone understands, that everyone is bought into across our partners, and everyone says yes to every activity that they are directed to do. We needed to get the ratio down. So, you know, this email soup that we never got to the bottom of, the goal is that we have one scheduling meeting a year. At the moment, we're about one scheduling meeting a term per partner to allocate their resources. That's already a very, very good ratio of planning versus execution. But we always think we can do better. Employee training, we've already started rolling out dedicated training days for our employer partners. So they will arrive, receive a whole day of training, and within that be provided with time with one of our team to really interrogate the activities they'll be delivering so that they have a full lesson plan available. And this has proven to be very, very valuable and really important for the quality. We're now finalizing our portal dashboard so that any employer partner can just get an ESG report. You know, we never used to have time to thank an employer on LinkedIn for their good work, for giving up time. But actually, because the program is funded, a key component of this is marketing. So this is included as a deliverable that the partners can expect. So it looks like a service level agreement, right? It's very important that it is perceived to be of value, and we have the bandwidth in order to execute that on behalf of every employer that we work with. Student recruitment's really, what this is all about. We want every student to get a positive destination. And the old way is that, and I still get lots of emails now asking us to just promote this to your students. And that just doesn't work. Right. We're now building a very structured schedule where employers are given a slot in the timetable to make sure that students know which apprenticeships are available, what careers are you offering, and it's all done in a very structured way. A couple of last points, really. Employers have very rarely had any influence on the curriculum that's being delivered in a technical college environment. Again, this is part of what we do. Those employers sitting around a table are helping us to decide what are we doing this year and next year, and what does the skills landscape look like in 3 years? Let's prepare together. Let's be proactive. For me, the last point, but this is the dream, is that actually, you guys in industry, there are lots of resources that you're all competing for, lots of critical resources. To my understanding, skills seems to be, the biggest pinch point. We serve as that account management team that gives you access to the resource that is stopping you from growing or sustaining your operations. Okay, so rather than a careers lead that's doing their job 6 days a week, you have a dedicated team that's getting better and better at service. Really talk about year 13. Okay, in the UK, this is when students are 17 to 18 years old. They will be leaving our UTCs. Okay, and up to half of them will be looking for apprenticeships. So what I'd like to do is very quickly compare what this process looks like as a comparison between moving on to university and going to apprenticeships. Okay, bear in mind these 17 to 18-year-olds, for them this is the biggest year of their life, right? Results count for everything. They have a lot of stress and anxiety. They have exams, assessments, and for them they're not quite adults yet. So in the UK, we have a body called UCAS, which supports every single university application. There are 2 deadlines a year, the first of which is end of September. And this is if you want to go to Oxford or Cambridge or one of the very, very few very special universities. For universities in general, it's a later deadline in January. And it's a fairly simple process. We all know the deadline. You have to do one thing. You have to choose 6 universities in order, and you have to write one statement. Let's look at apprenticeships and what the pathway looks like for kids that are considering an apprenticeship. So at present, this is the potential road that a student walks in their final year amidst exams, assignments. Depending on the apprenticeships that they may wish to recruit for, they have windows to make applications, and the student that's on top of the game will be applying for lots, and a student that's not on top of the game will be applying for those later on in the year as things get a little bit more desperate and they miss the early ones. There are going to be a number of interviews, hopefully, that students will be invited to, and maybe some assessments. Okay, but actually a number of these apprenticeship processes of applications look very, very different. Okay, so the comparison here really is that, the pathway to a university is you make an application with a single statement, and your path is based upon your expected grades. That's it. As soon as you get your A levels at the age of 18, those grades, you are then offered a place. It's very, very simple. It's quite binary. For an apprenticeship, you have to tailor a CV for every single application. You have to submit online applications, attend at least one interview, probably an assessment, conduct psychometric tests, and this is per opportunity. Okay, this is happening through the year, and this is in addition to your curriculum timetable, your assignment deadlines, your mock exams, your final exams. Okay, so at the moment, these students, in order to walk that rocky road to secure an apprenticeship, are under great pressure to secure that. And they have to do this every time for every apprenticeship that they're interested in. Okay, so this is, UCAS is the easy way, and it's for academic students. For an apprenticeship where students might be more vocational, they just want to get out and work, this is the hard way. So for me, the big challenge that we face, if we are going to recruit effectively and get kids into apprenticeships, is that we need a schedule and we need a simplified timeline that students can follow. My last insights, and I'm going to put a sentence against each one, and I might have a minute for questions. So by engaging with education, you are entering a community. This is not a transaction. This is a relationship you need to build. This has to be a strategic commitment from the top level so that the whole of your team feels authorized to buy in. You've got to be very careful not to disturb or disrupt what the core business of education is. You've got to work with it. It's got to be complementary. And if you try and do it on your own, you just will not have the scale. You need to be within an ecosystem, and you need to, gather around a group of employers that are going to do it together. And that needs coordination, and that will never work if one employer takes a lead. You've got to look outside of that body of employers and think, right, who can we get to run that for us? Go and work with a trust or, a larger organization of schools or colleges. And the goal is year one, at least year one, is a learning curve, right? This is brand new for you. It's not easy. And the goal is that you learn as many lessons as possible and you apply those lessons moving forward, because next year will be, twice as good as this year and half as good as the year after that. Kaylee, hopefully I've got 30 seconds for a question before the schedule proceeds.
Yes, thank you so much, Michael. It's really interesting to get the perspective from the education side, because obviously, like you said, everyone's so busy getting on with the job they actually have to do. This is always kind of a secondary thought, even though we're constantly talking about it. We know there's a skills gap, we know need to fill it. So, I mean, just quickly before we move on, you talked about that whole emails going back and forth, and it's easy to get lost by saying, well, I've sent my email, I don't need to do anything else. So what would you say kind of are the biggest falling down points, the biggest roadblocks to making this connection between industry and education? And what's the easiest things that we can be doing from the industry point of view to stop that happening?
Which it's really important that you're not attempting to tick a box, okay? So it will often be handed down to a CSR or a diversity or an outreach manager or a graduate, but actually, you have to sell this to education, right? Mm-hmm. And you've got to have a proposition that is better than those transactional offers, okay? You've got to engage from as senior a level within your organization to your peer within education, and it's got to work from the top down, okay? So all of our partners have, CEOs, COOs involved who are our executive sponsors. Mm-hmm. And this is clear guidance, okay? It has to come from the top. This is your biggest pinch point, right? Skills. And this has to form a strategic part of how you operate in the future. Allocate resources, consider it a fixed operating cost, okay? And then willingly assign those and make it happen. So that would be my advice, Kaylee.
Make it a priority, basically.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you so much. I'm afraid we're going to have to move on because we're running a little bit behind schedule, but thank you so much for giving us your time today, Michael.
My pleasure, Kaylee. Thanks for having me.
Have a great day. Bye-bye. Bye.